not for old people.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamine Dinamine, Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. So it's my privilege to welcome each one of you to this special Alumni Sanga organized by Mayapur Academy. We are very, very grateful and we are very thankful to each one of you for joining this session. And we are especially grateful and excited to have with us His Grace Kurma Caitanya Prabhu. So as many of you might already know him, but I will just introduce him very briefly. Kurma Caitanya Prabhu is a senior faculty member of Mayapur Academy and a deeply respected teacher, mentor, pioneer, specifically in the field of deity worship within ISKCON. Originally, he is from United Kingdom, and his devotional journey began in the early 1980s. Perhaps many of us were not born at that time. And he was serving very dedicatedly in Sri Vrindavan Dham, rendering services to Sri Radha Shyamsundar, Krishna Balaram, Gaura Nitai. He would dress them, he would cook for the deities. Prabhu later moved to Sri Mayapur Dham, where he closely assisted and learned from Jananivasa Prabhu and Pankajanghri Prabhu, pillars of ISKCON deity worship tradition at ISKCON Mayapur. So over the years, Prabhu has played a key role in transmitting this sacred knowledge through his deity dressing courses, which many of us have personally experienced as both educational and transformational. So can creativity be taught or it's inbuilt? So I'm sure that many of his students who were not very creative like me, they learned creativity, they learned how to dress deities so wonderfully from him. And he's very much known for his joyful nature, his artistic brilliance, his profound dedication. He has been lovingly serving and dressing the lordships for over 3 decades now. And he continues to inspire hundreds of students around the world with his educational courses. In addition, he's also an excellent cook. He's also a wonderful architect. He has designed many buildings in Mayapur and lately at ISKCON Ganga Sagar. So today, we are having a topic on making turbans easily readable and understandable. And so once again, welcome all of you and welcome His Grace Kurma Caitanya Prabhu. Those of you who can switch on your cameras, please do so. We would love to see your faces. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna. So I don't know if all of you have done the actual dressing course. So there's certain theory there that you might be unfamiliar with. So I'm not going to get very technical. Otherwise, I'm going to lose half of you. The idea is that we do the dressing course. We in the theory we discuss different principles of art and each of the effects that those have on the turban. And I thought that we actually have 8 principles of art that we learn in the turban course, deity worship course. And I'm just focusing on the ones that help to make the turban more easily readable. So I've put it into a little anagram, SHURE. So S stands actually not for a principle of art, but one of the elements of art, which is space. So I will, how do I share the screen? Share. Okay, I don't use Zoom very much, so how do anybody can help me? How to share the screen?
Yeah, share here. Just click.
Share. Screen?
Yeah,
Up the top.
desktop.
Screen and then
First one.
desktop?
No. Okay, so This Photoshop.
Photoshop. Okay. Open. This is should have been done before, but anyway. What? Quit and reopen.
Yeah, you must do.
Okay, quit. All right, I have to leave the meeting and come back. Now it's shared. So how do I?
No, Prabhuji.
I'm trying to share Photoshop. There we go. Photoshop. Share. Meeting. What? Yeah, this is not for me, you know, this tech stuff. Photoshop's here. Oh, okay. All right. Everybody sees this? Oh, allow.
Yes,
Okay.
Prabhuji.
Okay. Oh, God. I'm going to move this over. And this one. Okay, let me just put this on top. All right, so the first is S. S stands for space. So I remember when I started dressing the deities in Vrindavan, and I put a flower on Madhava's on Krishna's turban, and then stood back and thought, oh, this is not right, and I picked up the flower and moved it to another place, and I had no idea what I was doing. Omkar was a very artistic, pujari, and he would make the turbans in 5 minutes, and I was struggling. So the next phase I went through was like, okay, wherever there's a space, put something. Just don't leave a space. Spaces are bad. Fill it up. So sometimes when you have too much in the turban, it can be a little difficult to understand. And if you just remove some things and leave a little space, it can make the turban more readable. So I'm not saying that I made these turbans in the afternoon today, and I hope they kind of illustrate what I'm trying to say here, but for some of the turbans, I prefer the one that is the opposite of what I'm trying to demonstrate. And this is an example. This is where you're leaving more space, and this is where you're filling it up more. I actually prefer the one that's filled up more, but but this is an example where, okay, we leave some space so that you can see the separate parts of the turban. The space here is the blue cloth. If I can make another, all right, and I can actually draw with a pen. There's a pen tool somewhere here. There's a brush tool. Okay, is this going to work? Yeah, can you see that? Okay, that's the space right there. Maybe I can change the color. Yeah, we'll change it to white. There we go. So this right here, okay, that's the space. So that separates this part of the turban from this part of the turban. Okay, so now we have like two separate things going on, and this can make the turban a bit more readable. Now, in this case, the whole space is filled up. I actually prefer this, but what to do? But sometimes it can look a bit cluttered when you have a lot of things in there. There's another example here. We actually deleted the wrong photograph. There was more turban pieces on here, and basically it created like a crown where all the turban pieces were joined. And then we added some space. We can use the cloth to create some space between things. So in this case, we now have So the space, where is the brush tool? There it is, the brush tool. So this over here creates a space between the turban pieces like that. It separates the turban pieces, and it makes things a bit more readable. So you have one thing happening over on this side of the turban, and then you have another thing happening on that side of the turban like that, and then the space like separates them. And when you put everything together, like there, if you can imagine, there were more turban pieces in here. I'll just draw them in. Sorry about this, they got deleted. So when you have turban pieces everywhere, it looks more like a crown. So adding a little space can make things a little easier to read. So that was space. The next four, HURE. H is actually for hierarchy, not harmony. Those who've done the course might get confused. Hierarchy was part of proportion, where you have things that are more important and things that are less important. So if you look at this turban, for example, you can see that if I just get the pen again, there it is. You can see that this part of the turban is more important. Okay, it stands out more, it's bigger. Okay, it's more important. And this part of the turban, which is there to balance that part of the turban, is less important. So you have a hierarchy. You have like a main shape, the main thing, which is actually over here, the main shape. And then you have pieces that are supporting here and here. These pieces are supporting. And then there's a secondary shape over here. So there is like a structure to the turban, which makes it easier to understand. Also, we have a main point, which we can consider is over here. And we have a main line, which is over here. So when you have these things in the turban, it's easier to understand. Let's have a look at the, so this is a turban where the hierarchy is a little bit unsure. It looks like, because this is very heavy down here, it looks like this is perhaps the main thing going on down here, or maybe it's over here, or perhaps it's over here. We don't really know where is the main thing. All the flowers are like the same size. I mean, some are smaller flowers, but all the larger flowers are the same size. So it's a little bit difficult to understand what's going on. And over here now we've made basically a main central area focus here. It's helped with the turban cloth at the top here, helps to give emphasis to this area. And the flowers in this area are larger and more prominent. This over here is like the second area, and this over here is the third. Generally, you want to keep the main area and the second area, so the main piece and the second piece, on the opposite sides of the turban. So like this is on the right side and this is on the left side. Otherwise, the turban won't be balanced. Now, this helps to make the turban easier to read. This is emphasis. This is hierarchy. So the main flower is actually here. We don't have any turban pieces. Well, we do, but they're hidden behind. The main flower is here. This is like the secondary flower over here, and this is the third flower over here. So this one is the bigger one. This one is a medium. This is a small one, like that. Just makes the turban easier to read. Let's have a look at another turban over here. So this one, it's a bit confusing. What is the main thing here? These pieces over here, they look like the main pieces on the turban. And then where is the main center of the turban? It's a bit confusing. Perhaps it's here because this is very bright. We have all the yellow flowers over here. But then all the lines are over here. We have many lines coming over here. They're all like connecting over here. So maybe it's over on this side. It's a little bit confusing. So if we emphasize, or if we put a larger main flower over here. So this is the main flower here. secondary is over here, third one's over here, like this. Then it becomes a little bit easier to read the turban. It's a little less confusing. You would expect to have the main flower where all the lines are meeting, because that's like the main activity. You have all these lines are meeting here. These lines are coming up here. These turban pieces are coming up here. So basically all the lines are meeting at this point. So it makes sense to make this the main center of the turban and put the largest flower over there. Also, you have, with your turban pieces, you will have a main piece, and this turban piece over here, that is the main piece, and these are supporting pieces here, this one and this one. These are supporting. Generally, the supporting pieces are smaller than the main piece. And then there is another turban piece over here, which is a secondary piece, which is there to balance the main piece. So everything is the hierarchy of the turban is quite easy to understand. You expect the main point to be here, the main flowers to be there, next to where all the lines are meeting, and you expect the main piece to be there also. So it's a bit more readable. Okay, so that's hierarchy. Then the next thing we have is unity. So in the unity, for unity, the idea behind unity is that there is a flow. We're connecting things. And when we say that we're connecting things, the things in the turban are either going to be shapes and lines. So like here we see there's a line here, there's a line down here, and there are shapes. So there's a shape over here, there's a shape, here's a shape, there's a shape over here, like this. The cloth also produces shapes. Flowers can create lines. This is a line over here. These leaves are creating lines over here. So we have various shapes, lines, and flowers create points. So this is like a point. Here we have a point over here. There's a point there. So we have shapes, lines, and points in the turban. And when there's unity, they kind of flow together. And what we mean by that is that the lines connect in a way that makes sense. So if we look at these lines, okay, here's a turban piece, and the line is going down this way. Okay, then we have a piece of jewelry, the line is going over here. Then we have another piece of jewelry, this line is going this way. All right, then I have another turban piece, this line's going over here. Then I have a cloth, so that creates a line going down this way, like this. Then I have another line going across here. So you can see that the lines are not really connecting. They're not flowing together. And that creates a little confusion because it's more difficult to read. When the lines are connected, what happens is it creates like a single thing. And when the lines are not connected, then you have many things all independently working. And it's much more confusing, much more difficult to understand what's going on. Now in this case, we can see the lines are connected. So this turban piece has a line of symmetry which goes through here. We have the line of the cloth and the line of the jewelry which goes this way, like this, and continues actually with the turban piece down here like that, and continues with the leaves down here like this, and this continues with the leaves out this way like this. And then we have these two lines here from the turban pieces. So they basically create like a lotus flower. The petals, these are like the petals, and that's the center of the lotus. It creates kind of effect of a lotus. So all these lines, they're working together. And when the lines work together, the turban is much more easy to read, because it's easier to see one thing than to see many things. And here we basically have one thing. There are many things in it, but they're all flowing, they're all working together, which makes it easier to read. Unity. Then after unity, we have, this is rhythm. Okay, rhythm. So rhythm is where you're repeating things. And if you don't repeat things, it's more difficult to understand. So here I have something happening up here. And I have something else down here. And there's another thing over here. And there's another thing over here. Okay, and all of these are different. They're all different. I have two flowers that are the same, some jewelry that's the same, some turban pieces that are similar. So there's some rhythm here, but there are a few things here that are like different. And that makes it more difficult to read because when you have different things, you have to look at them individually in order to process them. So I have to look at this flower, this leaf, I can process that. Then I have to go over here. Then I have to process this thing over here. Then I have to go over here. I have to process this. Then I have to process this. So when you have many things that are different, it's more difficult to read because you have to look at them all individually in order to process them. All right. So now if we put similar things into the turban, now it's much easier to read because now we've got these flowers here and these ones here and this one here. These are all the same. So when you look at one of them, essentially you've seen them all. You don't have to spend too much time processing because there are many things that are similar. Here we have similar flowers happening over here. These three flowers, they're similar, so that's easy to process. And then we have these turban pieces, like here and here. These are curly turban pieces, so that creates some rhythm. And we have some rhythm with the little tiny flowers over here. These ones here and these ones here. Bit more rhythm. And there's, of course, the rhythm in the cloth. You have the folds of the cloth. And we have also this jewelry here and this jewelry over here. So these are repeated. So there's a lot of rhythm in the turban like that. And of course, we need variety. So this turban piece over here is a different shape. The other turban pieces are all curly, and then there is a more straight, symmetrical turban piece, and that adds a bit of variety to the turban. But this amount of variety does not disturb the your ability to read the turban easily. The idea is that if you have too much variety in the turban, it's actually quite difficult to read. So, okay, so that is rhythm. And the next thing that we have is emphasis. So the idea behind emphasis is that the turban will have some kind of structure to it. And the structure is essentially the geometry. I mean, structure, when you think of structure, you think of geometry. So you think of lines, shapes, points. So here we can see that there is some kind of structure. We have a point over here. We have a shape over here. We have a line over here. Okay. The problem is that this structure is not very clear. It doesn't really stand out very much. In fact, what does stand out is these three flowers over here. So they're creating a line over here, and they're standing out more than anything else. So this can make the turban a little bit difficult to read. We've got green cloth here, green beads, and then a green cloth behind. So there's not much contrast with the main line that we have here. And that doesn't help to emphasize the structure of the turban. So what we can do is we can use some contrast here. Also, these flowers here, you don't really see them very much. They're kind of like merged into the turban piece like that. So they're not very clear either. So now if we add a little bit of contrast, so now the green and the yellow, they stand out more. And the flowers around the line help a little bit. These beads, they're very shiny, they stand out, they're very big. These beads over here in the turban. They stand out very nicely. So that emphasizes the main line in the turban. And the leaves behind these flowers here, they help to emphasize the flowers. So it's a bit of contrast over there. And these yellow flowers over here are now a little bit more subdued because we have the yellow cloth now instead of the light green cloth as the base cloth. So these ones are kind of merging more into the turban so that the main line, which is this line here, this line stands out more. And this is the main point here. So we want this main point to stand out more. In terms of the hierarchy, this is the main point, and this over here is the secondary point, like that. So the main point, the secondary point, the main line, and the main shape, they're all standing out. So it's easier to read the turban when you use some emphasis to make the main structure of the turban stand out. Okay, this is another turban, which is, so now we've got yellow cloth with yellow cloth. This one's actually fine, but if you can do a turban where you're making a cross turban, which is where you have everything on one side, which is basically everything on this side is different than everything on the other side. So it's a different color. We even use different flowers, and we make this part stand out more, and the other part is a bit more subdued. So in order to do that, you want to contrast the colors. So if you're doing a cross turban, we want to choose two colors that are quite contrasting. And we don't want to put too much emphasis on the things in the second part of the cross. So we don't want to start adding lots of white things into this turban here, because then you're going to lose that effect of the cross turban, and then it'll end up looking more like, this is more like this, I guess, where the cross is not so obvious. So actually, it's just, so you can, the structure of this turban is actually a cross turban. That's the structure. So that's what we want to emphasize. And we are using, again, contrasting colors like that. The actual flowers in the turban, they don't really stand out so much. That's not really the point. The point is that this main line, if you like, of the turban stands out rather than the individual flowers. The jewelry stands out. This jewelry, I didn't want to make it stand out because I wanted this part of the cross of the turban not to stand out so much. So this is all part of emphasis. So that's SHURE, space, leaving space when the turban is looking a little cluttered. Or even if it's not looking cluttered, sometimes it just makes it more interesting if you just leave a little space. When you do like a flower turban, there's lots of flowers and everything there. It looks like, Vrindavan forest. But you can add some fields for the cows to pasture on by adding a little space with the cloth. Then that space, hierarchy, which is part of portion. Hierarchy means that you have like things that are more important, things that are less important, and where you put the more important things. The more important things will go according to your structure of the turban. You'll have areas that are more prominent, where lines are meeting, for example, and those places you want to put the main emphasis, the main shape, the main point, or the main line, according to the structure of the turban. So hierarchy helps to make the turban more easily readable because it gives you some kind of structure. Then unity connects things. If you don't connect things, it can look messy. When you connect things, many different things now working together as one thing, which is easier to read. So that's unity. Rhythm is where you're repeating things. When you repeat things, it's like in music, you have like a beat, a drum beat or something, and you understand what's going to come next because of the repetition of the drum beat. And same thing in the turban. You know what to expect. You see one thing, and basically you've seen all the other things that are similar, without having to go to each of them individually and check them out. So it makes it easier to read the turban. So that's rhythm. And emphasis basically means to make the main style of the turban stand out, whatever style that you have. And generally in a turban, you will generally have some shape that is bigger, some line that is more prominent, some point in the turban that focuses the eye, and those things. If you make them stand out, the structure of the turban will be clearer and easier to read. Right. Okay. I'm going to stop there. If there's any questions. How long was that? Half an hour. Okay. Is everybody there? Hello?
Yes, Prabhuji. So if anyone has question, you can unmute yourself and you can ask directly, or you can type in the chat section. So there's one question in chat section.
Yes.
Premanand and Devidasi. Can you please show some simple type of turbans for night dressing?
I don't have any simple turbans, pictures of simple turbans for night dressing. But what you can do is, like a turban like this one that we've got on the screen right now, if you remove the turban pieces, you can just use the puffy cloth. There's different ways of using the cloth. You can create fans. If the cloth is a little stiff, you can create fans. If it's soft cloth, then basically these are folded fans, which create a softer effect. Jewelry, I think, is okay. At least one piece of jewelry might be okay. I think you've got to have some variety in the night turban. You can't just have cloth. There needs to be something in there. Yeah, I think night turbans are quite difficult actually, because to make them look good and interesting, because they can look the same every day if you don't have a variety of styles of putting the cloth. I suppose you can use twisted cloth in a night turban. But flowers, I don't know. Do they put flowers in night dresses in other temples? Do they put flowers in the Mangalarti turbans?
Yes, Prabhuji. For Jagannath, we keep flowers.
You keep flowers. Okay, so that's nice. So yeah, I think the idea, I guess, is not to make the turbans look too opulent. So the turban pieces tend to make the turbans look more opulent. So I guess if you puff up the cloth and remove the turban pieces, then should be fine. I suppose you could put leaves. I don't know. I don't do night turbans. So, okay. Anybody else?
There's another question in the chat that Vilasini Radha Mataji is asking. Can you please share some turban tips for Jagannath Baldev?
Turban tips. Jagannath is, because he's standing more straight, a more symmetrical turban actually looks good on Jagannath. You can do an asymmetrical turban on Jagannath. The jewelry, I think, looks good if it's symmetrical. Like on this particular turban, we have like a symmetrical jewelry going on. If you can get some nice big gems, maybe made up with smaller gems. Maybe you can glue them onto something and make like a centerpiece. I think it would look good if there was like if you put like a center, if there's like a center jewel or something, in the center of the crown. The turban pieces can be asymmetrical, but I think the jewelry and the hanging jewelry and the main jewelry in the center, if that's symmetrical, I think that looks good on Jagannath. But you can make asymmetrical turbans on Jagannath also. Generally, devotees tend to put a lot of fans for those stiff fans for Jagannath, and I think that looks good. It makes him look very effulgent. So yeah, I don't like putting fans on Madhava. The turbans get too big, but for Jagannath, I think it looks great.
And there's another question, Prabhuji, how to tie turbans more creatively on small deities like Gaura Nitai?
Oh, so you're talking about deities that are like 1 foot? They're like 1 foot deities?
Gaura Prabhu, can you unmute and answer that? Yeah. Yes, Prabhuji. Almost like 1 foot.
1 foot deities. If I was doing small deities like that, I think it'll be quite difficult. It's quite fiddly to put turban pieces and everything on. So I would make the turbans off the deities in that case, because it's so fiddly, and you don't want to risk putting any pins into the deities. So I actually would do the turban off the deities, and then check the turban underneath the turban before putting them on, that there are no pins sticking into the underneath the turban. You can make tiny turban pieces. You can do twisted cloth, the cloth you can just make very small pieces of cloth, and you can twist it. I think in some ways it might be easier to do because the cloth is not so floppy, because when you're doing smaller deities, the cloth is actually feels more stiff. You can pre-make things, so you could pre-make these soft fans. This over here, this is a soft fan. So you could pre-make them and just sew them up and then just put them onto the turban, which gives you a bit more flexibility. Yeah, basically I would be following this similar kind of thing that we're doing for the big deities, just miniaturize everything. The only thing is the flowers. They're very difficult with the flowers. The flowers are so gigantic. So you have to figure out, like these flowers here, these tiny flowers, they would look good on small turbans, but obviously these big roses won't. It just won't work. Rosebuds, the flowers, they usually there are different sizes. Like when you buy a bunch of flowers, there'll be different sizes there. Some will be buds, some will be tiny little flowers. Just take out all the tiny ones. Even if you buy orchids, you can take out the little buds and use those. Like these things here, these are from Rajani. So these are quite small. You can use these on the small deities. You can get moti flowers. They look like little pearls. And you can even make flowers with petals. I know some devotees, they do that. They just take the petals and they just make tiny flowers with them. It takes a lot of time, but I wouldn't use plastic flowers on the deities. So yeah. Okay.
There's another question that is it okay if before placing it directly on the Lord, we first prepare the base of the turban for small deities and then place it on them?
And you just have to be careful to avoid getting any pins. What you should do is at night time when you undress, just take the turban off and check the turban that there are no pins going down into the turban. If there are, then you need to figure out what you're doing wrong. You don't want to be scratching the deities. For Madhava, we have a fiberglass helmet, and then we have a very large turban also, which is the pins can't go through that either. I mean, he's well protected, so I don't have any anxiety when I'm dressing Madhava. I'm still careful, of course, but I don't have any pin anxiety. Sometimes I've been asked to dress in other temples, and I'm always very nervous about because when you order these turban pieces, they actually have the pins in them, and all the pins are pointing towards Krishna's head. So that we for Mayapur we take all the pins off because it's just too risky. But other temples, they have other solutions. You can get these hard kind of like hats that are used for weddings in India. But even then, on the sides, if you're putting turban pieces on the sides, there's a risk because there's not a sufficient space between the hat and Krishna's head. And there's a risk that Krishna's head can get scratched. Yeah.
There's another question. How many peacock feathers should be used in Krishna's turban? Is there any rule about that? Number of peacock feathers.
Oh, well, actually, here you can see the peacock feathers over here, just in case. But they do make these fans, which are like made of many peacock feathers. And Omkar in Vrindavan was using them. It kind of looks something like this. Just a big fan of peacock feathers. If you look at the pictures of the deities Radha Shyamsundar and Vrindavan, they have these huge peacock fans that they put in, I don't know whether it's part of the turban or if it's considered to be like a surya or something behind the turban. But yeah, they use a lot of peacock feathers there. As far as I'm aware, there isn't any rule about how many peacock feathers should be used. I mean, there are certain rules. I mean, it's not rules, but there are certain things that Krishna likes. Like Krishna wears a yellow dhoti, and we put him in a pink skirt. So there seems to be certain leeway for what we can do in ISKCON. But of course, replacing the flute for a rose or something, that's out of the question. So there are certain things that Krishna must have. So like with the peacock feathers, I always put the peacock feather on this side of the turban. Let me just see, on this side of the turban, I put the peacock feather on this side, like towards Radharani. But you can also put the peacock feather on this side if you want. I believe this side is where you're supposed to put the peacock feather, but I don't think there's any, it's not like you could put the peacock feather over there also if you want, I guess. I believe he wears it on this side.
There are other questions. For clarification on the dressing of Srimati Radharani and Krishna. The first is it mandatory to wear a chandrika or crown in the morning for Mangala Arati?
For Radharani, would
Yes.
wear a chandrika or crown? What? Otherwise, you would just put flowers, is it? You would just put flowers in the hair and leave it at that? I think it's good to have a crown. Too simple. I mean, Prabhupada wanted the deities to be opulent, You wanted them to look. Krishna should look like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Radharani is his consort. I don't think we want them to look too simple. I would always put a crown or a chandrika personally, but you can make things out of flowers. You can make chandrikas out of flowers. You can make a crown out of flowers. You could make a very nice flower decoration. You can make turban pieces out of flowers also. So that's fine, isn't it? As long as they look reasonably opulent.
He's asking, is there any rule about it? Is it mandatory that one must do it, or it's optional?
I'm not aware of any rule, to be honest with you. I'm not aware of any rule. I've always just followed the system. You put a crown on Radharani or Chandrika.
Next question: is it mandatory to wear a tika in the morning for Mangalarati?
For Radharani Tika, I would put it, but I don't know if it's mandatory or not. I no idea, but I would put it.
And how many rings does Krishna have on his feet in the morning?
How many rings? Sometimes none. Sometimes they don't put any rings on his feet. He does wear rings on his feet, but sometimes they don't put rings on his feet. So, are you seeing the screen, or are you seeing my face? Should I click back on my face? Okay, there we go. Are you seeing my face now?
Yeah,
What are you seeing now?
the blank screen,
A
and
blank screen?
also
Oh, do I stop sharing? God, I messed it up. What am I supposed to do? Stop sharing. What am I supposed to do here?
Just close it,
Close it?
and you stop share.
Oh, stop share. Okay. All right. You can see me now? Or is it still a blank screen?
Yes.
we can see your brain.
Okay. All right, good. All right. So what was the question again?
There's another question. Can we use peacock feathers for Gaura Nitai? Some devotees say we should not use peacock feather for Gaura Nitai, because he's in a devotee mode. Can you please give any authentication to explain them?
In Mayapur, we use peacock feathers. Can I give any quote from Prabhupada? No, I don't have any quote. Just Jananivasa Prabhu is he put peacock. He said that we put peacock feather on, because we're worshiping Gauranga like he is in his abode. So then he wears a peacock feather. Otherwise, we would dress him in sannyas cloths, wouldn't we? Why would we put all these opulent clothes on him if he's if we're worshipping him as a sannyas, and we'll just put a danda and sannyas cloth.
Okay, are there other questions? If anyone wants to ask personally, you can unmute yourself, you can ask. There are a couple of announcements, by the way, in case anyone wishes to order that turban head, it's available at Mayapur Academy. You can just send a message in case you want something to practice upon, making turbans.
Will they also make turban pieces there? I think they'll. Won't they make turban pieces? If they order ahead, can they also order a set of turban pieces? We don't know. Maybe you can order a set of turban pieces also, if they want. It's difficult to practice if you don't have the turban pieces.
I've shared Mayapur Academy WhatsApp number in case anyone is looking for this turban hat. You can order from there also. And there's upcoming international diploma in deity worship for year 2025-2026. So I'm sharing the link to its prospectus where you'll find complete details. So you are encouraged to share that with your friends, within your own network, within your own community. The prospectus is also available on our social media handles, Instagram, and it's also available on our website, mayapuracademy.org. So, Mataji, all questions will be answered there in that prospectus. Some are unable to copy paste the link here. Yeah. So this link is there in the chat section. You can save this link with yourself and share in your networks as well.
Okay.
Okay, so we come to a closure. We sincerely thank His Grace Kurma Caitanya Prabhu. All the different turbans that you saw today in the session, Prabhu has been working upon them since morning continuously for this session for all of us. So he's been in the academy, he's been recording, and he's been putting the pictures just to make it more clearer for all of us. We're very, very thankful to Prabhu and also to Hansavtar Prabhu for recording and helping Prabhu. Hare Krishna. And before we leave, there's another online course. If anyone is interested or your friends are interested, it's online jewelry making course that is coming up in August after Janmashtami. So its registrations are open and the seats are limited. All the details are available on our social media handles. So once again, thank you very, very much for joining. Hare Krishna. We'll be sharing this recording on our Mayapur Academy YouTube channel within next days. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Roji. Thank you. Let's thank His Grace Kurma Caitanya Prabhu. At least one standing Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Krishna,
Krishna.
Hare Ram,
Hare
Hare
Ram,
Ram.
Hare Ram, Ram Ram,
Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you so much for the wonderful explanation.
Thank you. All right.